This isn't a game. This isn't a side hustle. This is a business. And if you treat this like a business, you will get rewards like a business. If you treat it like a side hustle or a game or a side project, that's the type of rewards you're going to get. So, all right. So, as a heads up before we get started, I have about 10 teenage boys downstairs and my 3 kids hanging out in the room behind me. So, if you hear any crazy noises, most likely that's what you're hearing. But this video is something that I've wanted to create for a long time now. And now that the first quarter is over, we can actually make this video. So, this is going to be a review of quarter one from 2023 compared to quarter one of 2024. We're going to review the growths and the non-growths that we experienced this year over last year. I will start by saying that if you're a business owner, it is extremely important for you to know your numbers, know them like the back of your hand. You should be able to spit off the numbers that you're doing very quickly without having to pull up too much data. You should have a general idea of where you're at all times because the numbers are the heartbeat of your business. You need to know if you're alive or if you're dead. You need to know if you can buy that new truck and prepare for growth, or if you need to start hustling a little bit more. You need to know if you could bring on another team member or not. You need to know what your conversion rates are. You need to know all these numbers. And if you're not paying attention, you'll make mistakes. So know your numbers. If you aren't, take this as a wake-up call. Take this as a sign that you need to start. If you need any help, leave us some comments below. We'd be more than happy to help, share whatever we can with you. But you need to know your numbers. I will also say you need some type of software to track everything. Yes, you can use pen and paper, which it's fine if you have to, but get yourself a CRM, get yourself a software that's going to schedule your scheduling, and you can run reports. You can track your sales. You can look at what you did last October 15th. If you're curious why you're busy or slow this October 15th, you can look at all the data so that you can prepare and make better decisions for your business. There's a lot of great softwares out there. We started with WorkEase, and how do I say this nicely? There's no way to say it nicely. I don't like WorkEase. I think it's horrible. It was one of the worst decisions we ever made. They cost us a lot of money. Their customer service team was absolutely horrible. Any experience I had with them was trash. We thankfully left them and we were able to get over to House Call Pro, and we've had nothing but an amazing experience with House Call Pro. Very happy with it. I definitely recommend it. Another up and coming software, if you're in the junk removal space, you know Andrew, and you've most likely by now heard of Autopilot, which looks to be very, very promising. I'm looking forward to eventually making the switch and testing it out and seeing what it's all about. I will lose my, 3 years of data that I have with House Call Pro built in already, but in reality, I have no plans on leaving this industry. So if I lose a couple years of instant data to have a better software that's going to be more in tune to what we actually need and the reporting that we need for our industry, in the long run, it's definitely going to be worth it. And I'm willing to make that change. So long story short, you need a software and you need to know your numbers. Little ground rules. I'm going to share more percentages with you here. I'm not going to share specific sales amounts. I just don't want to. If you know me personally and we meet in person, we hang out, we talk shop, I talk numbers very openly, but I don't want to share that with the entire world. That's for us in person and not here for everyone to see. So I will talk growth percentages or non-growth percentages. I may talk, I may say number amounts, but showing kind of what the gap is or the difference is between one year to the next. But you won't really know what that baseline is. So anyways, we're going to jump right into this. So January 2023 compared to February 2023, we have our junk removal numbers and we have our dumpster rental numbers. We keep the numbers separate. I like to track them separately. We kind of just fell into the dumpster rental side of the industry. We've never done any marketing for it, with the exception of a couple $100 a couple years ago on Facebook. But it's grown naturally, well over 6 figures just by itself. And we're very happy with where it's at. We have some big plans to change that this year, but that's for another video. So Jumping into the numbers, January 23 to January 24, we had a growth, which is great. Now, this percentage, I would say by normal business standard is wonderful. I think anyone that grew this percentage would be happy. And I'm not happy. Historically, we see a sharper growth pattern, but it's an interesting year this year. So I'll take I'll take what we have here. It's better than not growing. So 23 January to 24 January, we had a growth of 12.15%. Again, I'm happy with it and I'll take it. This January 23 dumpsters compared to January 24 dumpsters, we actually had a loss. So we were down 17.4%. Now, the dumpster side, again, we don't push it, we don't focus on it. I'm not really too worried about it. On the junk side, the big thing is I'm actually really happy about that number because as I dove into our January 23 numbers, about 18,000 of the sales from January of 23 came from two jobs. So we had two good sized cleanouts that we did. So in reality, if we take those two large jobs out, our growth was actually quite a bit more. But based off the numbers, we have a growth of 12.15%. Now, our average job size is definitely lower this year than I want it to be. I prefer the average job size to be, high fours, low fives. Higher is always better, of course, but at least be in that range. Average job size for January was 421. Now, as we jump into February, February is a bad word in my book. If you watched any of our videos, you know that I was not a fan of February and I was stressing out immensely going into February. As you prepare to hear these growth percentages, you'll see why. This data proved to me how bad last February actually was and kind of gave me a little bit of a peace and comfort knowing that it wasn't all in my head. So January 23 compared to, or sorry, February 23 compared to February of 24, we had a growth rate or growth of 103.89%, which is insane. Absolutely unheard of. We haven't seen percentage growth like that since year, one into year two of business, maybe a little year into two into three, but 100% growth year over year is absolutely amazing. No one is ever, ever, ever going to complain about that. Dumpster side, we also had growth, which shocks me because we had a lot of rain in February. Dumpsters 23 February to 24 February, we grew 47.66%. I'm stoked with that. A little bit of a downturn in January, but a massive uptick in February. In February, our average junk removal job size was lower, 392.62, which is right on trend for what we're seeing. We had slower February and we were having to get a little bit more scrappy, bend over backwards a little bit more, hustle a little bit more, make a little bit more deals. So we had an average job size that was lower than we wanted. Going into March of 23 compared to March of 24, on the junk removal side, we actually went down, and it was a pretty good chunk that we went down. So we were down 15.66%. Now I will say this: March was very wet. The wettest I've ever remember it being. We've had more rain this year than, I was born and raised here in Southern California. I don't ever remember having this much rain. So we went into March expecting to have a good month, and we quickly realized that it wasn't going to be as good as we thought. But it rained a ton. So I dove into everything. I looked at all the marketing and everything, and I tore it all apart, and we did everything right. Nothing changed. The only thing that changed is the customer volume wasn't there. So we were down. Total, dollar wise difference from March 23 to March 24 was close to 10 grand. So that definitely hurts. However, we made up for it on the dumpster side. So dumpsters, March 23 compared to March 24, we had a massive growth, which is weird again, because it was another super wet month, but massive growth of 225.47%. No one's ever going to argue with that. That's great. Our average job size on the junk removal was actually almost almost exactly the same as February. So average job size in March of 24 was 393.58. February, March, almost identical in sales. They were actually off by exactly $4. So is what it is. Total growth. Let's look at that. So if we look at junk removal, year over year growth, we're showing growth on the junk removal side at 16.26%. Awesome. I am super happy with that. Year over year growth on the dumpster rental side is astronomical at 1,487.03. Huge growth. Now, blend all that together. We take our total year over year and compare it to last quarter. We had a growth of 26.52. So 26.5, 26.5% growth. So what I did is I took that 26.5% and I multiplied it by last year's sales. And the reason why I did that is I wanted to get myself a little bit closer of a projection of what we should be expecting for this year. And when I ran those calculations, we actually came in a little bit under than what I initially projected for this year. But we're getting these numbers based off the slowest quarter of the year. At least historically for us, quarter one is the slowest quarter. So 26%, 26.5% multiplied by last year's sales puts us about $50,000 less than what I was projecting for the year. Now, if my projections are correct, we're going to be pretty darn close to hitting that seven-figure mark. Well, since we're here, let's talk about the seven-figure mark. I mentioned this number a couple times in a few other videos, and I got some hate from some people, and I thought it was kind of stupid and ridiculous. My goal is to hit seven figures. Will we hit it this year? Probably not. Maybe, maybe not. Based off the numbers and the data, it does not show that we're going to hit it. And if we don't, that's okay. At this point, the only way I really see us hitting it is if we land a large job. But that's a goal of mine. It's not something that I obsess over. It's not something that's going to make or break me. It's not something that's going to define me. There's nothing magical that happens when you hit seven figures. It's just a goal. And if you don't like that, I don't care. You don't have to watch. You can move on to someone else's videos. If you're going to give anyone hate for having a goal to try to get to a certain point in their business, you're not the person I want to be around. So our goal is to hit seven figures. Based off the numbers, we're not going to hit it this year unless something big happens. In reality, we should have been really close to hitting that number last year, but I made some mistakes. I dropped the ball. I killed all of our marketing, and those mistakes cost us a whole lot of money. So we're back on the horse. We're back to normal. We're back to marketing, and we're back moving forward to try to hit some of these goals. Now, moving forward, the next time we do this video, it's going to be really interesting to see how the numbers play out, because last February we made those mistakes and we killed our marketing. So, once we turned off the marketing, you have to give your marketing companies typically a 30-day notice. So realistically, April of last year was the beginning of us not having any marketing in play for the majority of the year. So I'm really curious to see what this next set of numbers come out to look like, what the comparison is from no marketing dollar spends to marketing dollar spent. Now, we're not spending as much as we used to. I don't plan on, maybe I do. At this point, we're probably spending about 40% of what we used to spend. At this point, I'm not really ready or prepared or want to go back to what we were spending, because we were spending a lot. However, that may be what we have to do to hit that goal. So what we are doing, though, is we're putting ourselves in a position for growth. We are preparing for growth. We're making sure that if the business comes in, we're ready to tackle it. So what does that look like for us? Well, we're hiring employees. We're making sure that I am no longer in a truck every single day. We're making sure all of our trucks and our equipment is all maintained and ready to go for a busy summer. We bought another truck. So at this point, we have the 2020 Isuzu with the 20-yard box. We have the 22 Ram with the gooseneck roll-off, and we have now the new 24 Ram with the bumper pool roll-off. The plan is to keep our full-time junk removal team on the road and our full-time dumpster team on the road, and then have the new Ram as a backup truck ready to go assist our full-time team, or be ready to dispatch myself with one of our on-call guys, or maybe we move them up into a part-time position to be able to handle a completely new schedule and fully really hammer and fill up the junk removal schedule and see what we can come up with. And if that happens and that becomes consistent, then we add in another full-time employee and I pull myself out of that position again. So that's really the plan. All these decisions have been made based off of the data that we have. So you have to know your numbers. You have to know where you're at in the business. If you don't, you're going to make mistakes. If you're like me, you jumped into this business because you saw some promise for this, buy a trailer and make $10,000 a month, or you get into this business and you make all this money because there's no expenses involved. Wrong. There's ridiculous amounts of expenses. Okay. But if you're like me, you just kind of jumped in and you didn't really think about it. And well, we're at the point where we need to think about it. And maybe you are too. This isn't a game. This isn't a side hustle. This is a business. And if you treat this like a business, you will get rewards like a business. If you treat it like a side hustle or a game or a side project, that's the type of rewards you're going to get. So if you're ready to make these changes and you need help, feel free to drop a comment below. I'm more than happy to help you. Send us a message on Instagram, leave a question below. At this point, we're ready to really treat this as the business that it has grown into, and we're ready for this next step. So we're making these calculated decisions, and it should be exciting. So anyways, these are the type of videos that we're really looking forward to putting out. If this is the type of content you like, let us know below. But if you watched this far, I truly appreciate your time. I appreciate you sitting down and watching someone go over numbers, which can be really boring. For me, it's exciting to see the ebbs and the flows and the growths and try to track and project on where we might end up. But if it's exciting for you, follow us along this journey. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys this evening. Hopefully everyone has an amazing day, an amazing week, an amazing weekend, and we'll catch you guys next time.